Mere conservatism.
Welcome back, David.
Thank
you. I saw the pictures, by the way. You and your family were at the beach at Hilton Head, and it looked like a lot of fun.
We had a great time.
Oh, I was there about a week or so before you, and it was wonderful.
You left it in good shape. Thank you, by the way, for that.
I'm glad I did. It's important to break away every now and again because the craziness, the cray-cray, it's worse than ever.
Yeah, and there was a lot last week. You know, the pull out of Afghanistan concluded last week while I was away.
Yeah. You and I touched on that, though.
Yeah, we did. And also Texas, they went against liberal orthodoxy. This thing in Texas with the abortion law has really exposed the left in a very interesting way.
Let's start there, by the way. I was going to start with Afghanistan, but just to prove a point that we're not going to be guided and manipulated by the powers that be, we're going to start on something that to me is more important than what a lot of us, even on our side, realizes. This heartbeat law and that Supreme Court decision, which, by the way, did not overturn Roe v. Wade.
No, it didn't.
I say that wishing it had, but this is the way they're painting it.
And it's really the Texas law is really a clever trick to get by some of the laws and rules and regulations and stuff like that, because basically what it does is allows citizens to sue abortion doctors.
Private citizens.
The state doesn't do it. Citizens do it.
Well, here's the thing. To me, I like it because it forces us to talk about what the pro-abortion side don't want to talk about. Anything that makes that fetus sound human, sound like a human being, they don't want to talk about it. So, but this has got heartbeat built into it. And David, it establishes one thing. Whatever you call that something that's inside that woman's womb, it has a beating heart. And this just brings out to me that fact. You are stopping a beating heart. Whatever else you want to call this, you are stopping a beating heart. And I just think that imagery itself, to me, just says more than just abortion.
Yes, and I've said for a long time, there's really one question that matters when it comes to discussing abortion, and that is whether or not the unborn baby is a person.
Right.
Because if the unborn baby is a person, there's not a justification for killing that person. That's why they have to act like it's not a person. My body, my choice. It's a woman's body. But although that ignores the central question.
Right.
The central point of the pro-life movement is that is an individual, unique human being in the womb, not part of another person, not just an appendage of another person. That is the only question really that matters, because your answer to that question will then dictate what is moral to do next.
Somebody else would maybe kind of reframe your question, and that somebody would be on the other side of the issue. Planned Parenthood folks, they would say, no, that's not the question. The question is, when does that become a human being? Well,
there you go. Well, it's the same, that's the same root thing. Yeah. Is it human? Is it a person, or is it not? And that's when you can't, without doing mental gymnastics and tying yourself into a pretzel, you can't make it not a human. What
they've been able to do, though, and the two things that have been working against them was when our side discovered the use of the high definition, sonograms. That was huge. And the other thing is, again, the heartbeat thing. This is why I like this bill. It literally brings into light, we're talking about a heartbeat at the earliest stages of development even. So this is what's driving them crazy, because you don't want to say anything that indicates that's a being all by itself in the womb.
They continue this Holocaust on the unborn by using euphemisms. They never say what the truth and what things really are. They use euphemisms. They distort language when they talk about it so that they can get by with what they're saying, because what they are advocating for is horrific.
Exactly.
It's brutal. There was a story that came out of Texas about an abortion clinic that was doing everything they can to do as many abortions as they could before this law came into effect. And I couldn't help but think, like, the writer of the story, and I don't know where it was written. I can't remember.
I've heard about this.
I heard it written. I heard it read. Yeah. They were making these people into heroes, where this one abortion doctor who's like 80 performed 76 abortions in a day. and this person is a hero, and wow, look what he did, and all this. And it's so grim and sick when you think about what they're actually doing. But all that is kind of pushed aside because the humanity of these unborn babies is completely denied and dismissed, and it's absolutely sick. We're going to look back in 100 years, if the Lord tarries, at articles like that, and it's going to shock people to see how brutal our society was that they would write that story about these people murdering babies in the womb.
The sad thing is it doesn't shock enough people now. I mean, even now, even on our side, I don't think we're outraged. I guess we're so used to being outraged about this particular topic, we're losing our outrage, but I don't want to lose it. What you just said, it's what they're doing and what they're saying about this unborn baby and the cavalier way they're rewriting the script so that they're the heroes. They're the ones trying to provide for the right.
They're serial killers.
Yeah, right. And David, I'll say this again, and this is why I'm glad you made me start off with this than us starting off with Afghanistan and that fiasco, is because for me, this will always be issue number one. I don't care what else. I don't care what else happens in any other arena of the battle that we have with our culture. Losing this battle is the battle that decides to me whether America stands or falls.
And you even have commentators on MSNBC saying that the government ought to deputize doctors to go down in kill squads, to go down to Texas and provide abortions on the federal level to get around this law. It's disgusting. It's so horrific. And this, Cleve, it is evil.
Yes.
We shouldn't
pure evil.
Neglect using that word as pure evil. And a big piece of evidence for that is that an organization that is coming to the defense of pro-aborts in Texas is the Satanic Temple. Did you hear about that?
I heard about it.
So the Satanic Temple is saying, oh, no.
That's one of our rights.
Sacrificing children is a sacrament.
Yeah.
They actually are saying, Cleve, what pro-life people have been saying about the left for many, many years, which is that it is a liberal sacrament to abort unborn babies, to kill them. The demonic temple is saying, yeah, that's exactly right. This is a religious liberty issue. We need to be able to sacrifice children. That's how demonic and evil
it has gotten to the point. And you make a great point on this, David. And I don't normally like to question people's faith because I don't think I have the right to do that. A believer is somebody that's between them and God if they put their faith in Jesus and, whether that faith is genuine and born out or not. But I said this, and I'm saying it more often. If you are a believer, if you identify as somebody who trusts in Jesus as Savior, and you are in any way supporting anybody who supports this, you are in gross error and sin. And I can't say it any other way. I mean, again, I don't like saying that, but I think it's time to stop. I don't know, just pussyfooting around. I really do, and just say it like it is.
Too many people, Cleve, they have no fear of God. They don't fear God at all. They don't respect God. They don't believe in God. They think that they may even believe that there is a God, but they don't take God seriously. And they don't take the devil seriously either. And so when I really believe, Cleve, that a lot of these leftists, they don't realize what they're doing when they hitch their wagon. When they hitch their wagon to the demonic temple or the satanic temple when it comes to this abortion thing, they think it's cute. They think it's funny. They're like, we found a way around it.
Right.
This is a devilishly good idea. They're making jokes and stuff. Yeah. And I'm thinking, y'all need to be careful. Yeah. This is not a joke. And this is very, very serious. I don't think that they realize because they don't take this stuff seriously.
But David, our side doesn't fully realize it because, again, if there is a tipping point for the fate of a nation before the eyes of God, I think this is that tipping point, the shedding of innocent blood. As a matter of fact, one of the sins that God hated most and declared it so in the Old Testament when he was taking Israel through to the Promised Land was the god Molech, an idol that literally burned babies alive as an act of sacrifice to gain prosperity, whatever it is. God hated that so much he named it several times. You let your baby pass through the fire, that is, and you're going to be judged for it. So my point is this: if America does not recover from her present situation where we're literally besieged by a horrific government, I think the reason will be the sin of abortion. I think that will be the thing that puts us finally beyond the tipping point as far as our God is concerned. And I say that seriously because I don't want it to be true, but I think that we are minimizing it and and so again, Texas, thank you. Thank you, Governor Abbott. Thank you, folks in Texas. We're standing with you. Yeah, they're coming after you. There are other states, by the way, who are getting ready to adopt bills like this. Mm-hmm. So, again, good. I told you before, it would come down to our governors and our states standing up to the powers that be.
And they all need to do it. All these pro-life states, they need to make sure they enact similar laws, and let's fight on this. We cannot stop fighting on this one. This is not one of these things that we should even try to just hold the line.
Right.
No.
Right. And bless his heart, Donald Trump surprised me with that issue as well, because he kept that issue front and center as for the Republicans while he was in power as well. Whereas a lot of Republicans were trying to push away from that, thinking that was a lead weight on the party, and he was actually stronger in his what he said about it and the things he did than anybody. And that's another reason I miss him. But let's not go there. By the way, it hasn't happened yet, David. But by the time this broadcast is being heard, the Department of Justice will already have filed suit against Texas over that new law. So again, I just got to say, if you are a Christian, you identify Democrat right now, you got to understand what this party stands for and what it's doing, and you and God need to have a confab. You need to talk. All right.
Yeah, Joe Biden, by the way, did he almost like renounce his faith on this issue? I mean, he's basically
if he's a true Catholic, he did to me. He said I no longer I don't believe life begins at conception. Now before he used to believe that.
Look, Joe Biden has never believed anything. So we say that. But now he feels to point out the difference.
Now he feels free to actually say that, like so many Democrats do. Now he can actually say, "I don't believe life begins at conception."
But he just doesn't believe anything. He's just saying things.
Now it's up to the Catholic Church to stand up. A lot of priests want to. They want to say, "Hey, this guy shouldn't have communion as a Catholic Christian. He shouldn't be recognized. He should be publicly rebuked." So now it's time for them to stand up and make a divine stink, as it were, over this. All right, so I'm glad you brought that up, because that is numero uno. Now, this next one, though, it's right up there. President Biden missed a deadline this past Tuesday that was set by Republican senators who demanded he provide the exact number of Americans, green card holders, and special immigrant visa applicants who remain in Afghanistan. He didn't provide that. I don't think
he just ignored them. I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know, is it that he doesn't know, or is the number is more than what they're willing to admit.
It's probably more. I think they know, because how can you not?
You would think.
You know who. You've got all these people that have come out of Afghanistan, unless you haven't processed everybody yet, which seems. Well, I was going to say that seems unlikely. Actually, with this administration and how incompetent they are,
possible.
It's actually very likely that they haven't processed everybody that they've brought out of Afghanistan. So maybe that is the case. But my guess is that they just don't want to tell anybody.
Well, here's the thing. They have been it's been confirmed that the State Department actually has been hindering and stopping other efforts, non-governmental efforts, to get people out of there, not letting them depart. Mm-hmm. And, of course, recently they let a couple hundred people go that included a lot more Afghans than American citizens. But my point is, how can they not know? And what else are they not telling us? All this happening, as 911, is back in the picture. David, it's like this couldn't have happened to me at a worse time. It's bad enough that it happened, but to happen now, and to know that the people gave so much and sacrificed so much, and veterans out there now, with lost limbs and whatnot, and this man and this party literally surrendered to the Taliban. They surrendered.
It's very sad. They have partnered with the Taliban. This is one of the worst things. Joe Biden has made a very big mistake here, hitching his wagon to the Taliban, and that's pretty much what he's done.
Sure.
And I think that's probably why the State Department has limited flights out and stuff like that because they are trying to be buddies with the Taliban.
Trying to accommodate them as best as possible.
They want to be nice to them because now they're at their mercy in a lot of ways. I mean, even leading up to this pullout, the reports came out that the Taliban said to the Biden administration, hey, would you guys like to control Kabul? We won't take it over. We won't go in there. You guys can control Kabul until your deadline. And the Biden administration said, no, that's good. You guys take it over and provide security. I mean, the blunders of Joe Biden. And now we're at the Taliban's mercy. We're really
And they're laughing at us. One of the things they did, and perhaps you saw it, was they reenacted the picture of the Marines putting up the flag.
Yeah,
they reenacted that putting up the. I mean, they just mock, and they have reason to. I hate to say it, they have reason to, because literally they are being pictured as the little tiny ant that toppled the giant that was America, David, it just breaks my heart. And so 911, it has taken on a whole new feel and meaning for him. It was bad enough, solemn enough, but now
we're going to be sending aid, Cleve, to the Taliban who sheltered the terrorists that committed this attack on our country. And by the way, Al-Qaeda's back.
Yeah.
ISIS is back.
Yeah. Yeah.
All these organizations that are Afghanistan very, very, very quickly apparently has yet again become a safe haven for terrorists.
There are terrorists that we have released that are in the upper echelons now of that Taliban setup there that we let go, that are now sitting and ruling and reigning. And like I said, it's like how many things can happen that can insult us even more and demean us even more and disgrace us even more.
Yeah.
And it's happening all the time.
Well, and for the record, again, we've gone over this, and I've said this many times, but I didn't really like Trump negotiating with the Taliban to leave Afghanistan. I never agreed with that policy, and it made me very uncomfortable for the Trump administration to meet with the Taliban and do anything except shoot them. Okay, However, Joe Biden I was uncomfortable with that. Joe Biden took that in a direction I couldn't imagine the U.S. doing. We are now running PR for the Taliban. We are sending them aid, money. We're probably going to be paying them ransom to get people out.
No, probably to it.
And they may not call it ransom. It may just be airport fees and stuff like that. If we come to get people, they're going to charge us a lot of money to get people out. And I cannot wrap my brain around partnering with the Taliban the way that we have. And this is Joe Biden's fault. Trump, I don't think would have done anything close to this. This would not be happening if it was Trump.
They're not going to be ordering him around at this point. That's what I mean.
Absolutely not. Trump was the strong man in the situation. Biden is the weak man in this situation, and we are being. I just can't even put into words, Cleve, how frustrating it is to see the United States with the Taliban as allies, apparently, and people that we're dependent on and trusting, and it's bad.
I thought it was bad enough. I remember, and this is seemed like forever and an age ago during the administration of Obama, where I almost came to tears about the 4 Americans who were left to their fate in Benghazi. I thought, that was a day of infamy that could never begin. It couldn't get any worse. We literally have left American citizens behind to the mercies of the Taliban. I mean, we don't know how many. They won't tell us how many, but I know it's a good number. If you'd have told me it would ever get to that we would not only run with our tail tucked between our legs, but we would leave behind American citizens, that sends a chilling message to all of our enemies that we've done something like that.
And blunder after blunder in the execution of that by the president and the administration, and lie after lie being fed to us from them as well. It's ugly. And Cleve, I sincerely believe that this has effectively ended Joe Biden's presidency.
I understand
I hope
that.
That's the truth.
I understand that.
But I believe it is the truth.
Yeah.
I think he's done politically.
I mean, the point is, I understand that, and I think you're probably right. The only problem is that's not much consolation considering who you have in the wings, who will now historically be the first woman president, and who, to my mind, in so many ways, are even worse than Biden.
Understand what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
Joe Biden is still going to be president. Yeah. His political capital is gone. He can't do anything anymore. Meaning, his effectiveness has disappeared.
Well, I tend to disagree with you to this extent. I actually believe he's going to be gone because there's only so long before the Democrats can continue to provide cover for him mentally. I think he's literally going to get to the point, David, that they won't be able to do it.
Well, this is what I think is going to happen. Yeah. I think that he's going to remain president for long enough for the Republicans basically to take control of Congress. That means that if Kamala Harris takes over the presidency, when something happens to Joe Biden, she is also going to be hamstrung,
lamed up,
and unable to do anything. That's really what I'm hoping.
That's a beautiful scenario. The only thing that mitigates against that, again, is the voting law that the Democrats are trying to get into place. And that's, David, and you go into a subject that I didn't want to touch on, but that's why Biden and company, the Democrats, have to keep the pandemic in full swing. They cannot allow the pandemic not to be a crisis, because that's going to give them the excuse, at least in their plans, to continue the emergency voting contingencies that allowed, I think, so much abuse in the last election. So therefore, I'm telling you, this is why Biden and company have to keep a pandemic threat alive. They don't want to turn the corner on that. Maybe after 2022 they will, but right now, if they can get their election law, their version of it in pass, they can actually win. Come the next election, and that's frightening.
Well, Cleve, I haven't been everywhere in the country this year, but the places I've been, people are not buying it.
Well, I agree.
The pandemic is over. So if you're in South Carolina or Georgia or Florida, that's pretty much where I've been the last year. But if those places, people are not.
But if you notice the states you haven't been to, like California and New York and other places, it ain't over. Okay, it's very much.
Yeah.
And there's
California, by the way, might be about to get a new governor.
Well, and that's another
subject.
That's another subject, because we were talking about the situation with up there where Larry Elder was not just heckled, but had things tossed at him, and there was a gal dressed up with a gorilla mask.
Now, in her defense, she's a leftist. She might just be that ugly.
Okay. All right. Point taken. But my point is, again, we were talking about if that had been a Democrat, a black candidate, okay, oh my goodness, the news cycle would have been one steady hate crime assault type thing.
A black Democrat for any race in the country, black Democrat for county commission, and this had happened.
Yeah.
It's a national story.
And it's true. And only Fox and a few other outlets are even reporting on it. Okay. And Larry Elder talked about it, and he says, we're not going to let it stop us. And right now he's the leading candidate in opposition to being in the recall. My problem with that is, David, I got to tell you, I actually believe the fix is on, even in the recall election of California. Money poured into that recall election on behalf of Newsom that is just out of the wazoo. They literally are going to do whatever it takes for him to stay in power. And Larry Elder has specifically asked his people to do what they can to give scrutiny to the voting procedures in California.
They're going to try. Here's the thing. Black conservatives, Cleve, and you are one.
Yeah, I was going to say I know what you're speaking about.
I would venture to say, and I have not done sociological research on this, but I would venture to say that black conservatives face the most racism of any minority. Again, if this had happened to any other a black Democrat running for anything, it would be a national story. And people like you and people like Larry Elder have lived your entire lives being called the worst racist names.
You got it.
that you can think of.
Yeah. And treat it more shabbily than any so-called white supremacist would ever have treated
words,
us.
Cleve, that words and attitudes that as a white conservative, I've never even considered using. Mm-hmm. But leftists will do it. Yeah. They will wear a gorilla mask and ride on a bike and throw eggs at a black conservative.
They will use the N-word, too, by the way.
They will, and all the other pejoratives they can think of that fit into this. And this is who the left is. Now, a lot of Democrats are not like this. Mm-hmm. A lot of Democrat voters, I should say, are horrified by something like this, and they think it's the fringe of their party and stuff like that. But the problem is that the Democrat Party is basically controlled by the fringe of their party. They are.
I know, I agree. 100%.
They have control of the party. And the thing about leftists is that they talk about diversity, they talk about equality and all this stuff. They actually hate all that stuff.
Yeah.
They like conformity. They have to have conformity. That's why they hate Larry Elder, because he's different.
Yeah. He breaks the narrative.
Conformity is really what they want. And it's very dangerous. I really hope that Larry Elder can win that election, because if he does, I think he'll do a lot of really good things for California.
That would be a political earthquake if he
really
wins.
Would be, because California is a one-party state. Mm-hmm. And if they have a Republican governor who's going to get to appoint Republican cabinet members to do work in the state, and maybe get to appoint a Republican senator if something happens to one of the senators there in the state. They have a very old senator, Dianne Feinstein, that might have to step down.
They're ready for her to go anyway.
In the middle of the night sometime. So you're right, it would be a shockwave in the system, and it would change everything, I think, about the perception of Republicans in our country. It would be a huge, huge deal. I hope that he wins. We need to pray for that.
From your lips to God's ears, that's my prayer, because that's what it's going to take for him to win, in my humble opinion, even though he should, without having to worry about shenanigans. Well, David, wow, it went by real quickly. Again, anybody who wants to hear the entirety of this conversation can hear it.
Yeah, they can check it out on the Apple Podcast app on their phone. They can look at it on Facebook or YouTube as well.
We love comments as well. David Perry over there. I'm Cleve Walker over here, inviting you to join us again next time for another edition of Mere Conservatism.